pouring rain. Why must you persist? Oh, happiness feels like pouring rain. Holding up this weight might break. This weight might break me. I stopped answering calls. Had to get more involved with finding myself. I'm two hands away from flowers at my funeral. Here lies the main. I'm two hands away from eulogies, but I don't wanna die today. It was said he's too young to be a martyr. Never got the chance to live free of the trauma. Never trusted him unless it was his father. All is true what they said about karma. Cause I'm a degenerate and my meds don't work. I'm always skipping school cause Jack is on my shirt. I act up cause my liver only keeps getting so worse. And I act up cause all my friends keep taking rides in a hearse. So fuck church, I'm hurt, that burnt, need more paranoid. Don't lose faith in me, boy, I'm annoyed. I avoid, and I'm sorry that I toyed with your heart. We apart, now I'm hurt and that burnt. I need more, give me more or I'll die. I'm afraid I won't survive, and I tried, fuck I tried. Now I'm lying on the street, need a ride to get high. I can't stand being me, need a ride to get high. I can't stand being me. Fuck. Persisting feels like pouring rain. Why must you persist? Oh, heaviness feels like pouring rain. Holding up this weight might break. This weight might break.
Look, I create to distract myself from the fact that when I look at myself, I avoid eye contact. I feel like I overact, worried to death of the traits that I lack. Get rid of these flashbacks. I didn't ask to go back. Stand back and look back at all of my setbacks. So many times I have turned back to kick that, grabbed onto my drawbacks and come back to cut back. But how can a sad act like me cut back when I keep all of my drawbacks in my backpack? Like a bunch of fucking useless knickknacks. I'm sure I'll bounce back, but for now, guess I'll just hang back. I feel this odyssey. Might break. This weight might break me, but I don't wanna die today. Never got the chance to live free of the trauma. He's too young to be a martyr. Never got the chance to live free of the trauma.
Has to be worth millions.
Pull up to the crib in a whip like this.
That has to be worth thousands.
This one is definitely
Dude, this is like.
That's when you know you won life. This is like the future.
I bet. Dude, look at the
This is mid-like crisis level of car.
Look at the subtitle.
Oh my, these are speakers.
What's the flag
Duct tape.
Like, screw it in.
What's it say? Bell?
Do we have duct tape?
Yeah, we have duct tape. We have
Okay.
a lot of duct tape.
Good shit.
I thought we needed.
We will be using.
Where's the card?
Oh, and we need a.
How much is it?
$588.
588? I can't leave you alone for 5 seconds. Please screwing this stuff. Oh, dude.
I like to buy a motorcycle.
Oh my god.
Join me for an adventure, oh, much like any other, with twists and turns and plot devices, words and wonder. Now my advice is listen close. What makes this story different is the teller and the told. This one's ours and it's waiting to unfold. So come be merry with me. Oh, come be merry with me. Come on, be merry with me. Join me for an adventure, oh, much like any other, with twists and turns and plot devices, words and wonder. Now my advice is listen close. What makes this story different is the teller and the told. This one's ours and it's waiting to unfold. Hello, what's shimmin' and shammin', guys? I know, dude. That guy, he decided to pop in at the beginning, like right at the start. I don't know what's up with that, but you know, sadly I don't really control what he does. He kind of runs the show at this point. Dear old Tyson. But yeah, what's going on, dudes and dudettes? I hope your day has been going as merry as mine. Had a bit of a rough start to the morning, but I didn't let that deter me. I still tried to make the most. Sorry. My bad. We got a text from my roommates. I tried to make the most of it, and yeah, it's been pretty good thus far. Yeah, I don't know. What's been going on for you guys? Did you eat some breakfast this morning? How was it? What did it taste like? You know? You lost your wallet? Did it have important things within it? And did you lose it? Did you lose it in like in a public place or in your household? Had money, frick, dude. Oh, I listen. I have a I think it was stolen, frick. I don't know. I have like a strong belief that lost things have a way of finding their way back. You know, at least that's the way it's been for me. Like whenever I lose something,
even if it's super important, I'll give it like a solid 5 to 10 minutes of like thinking about it and like trying to and looking and trying to figure out where it went. But if I don't find it in that time, I just stop worrying about it, and one day it just kind of pops back up and appears. Yeah, dude, I really hope it does, man. I really do. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get things started. I want to end tonight no later than 11 is what I'm hoping. And we have 3 whole chapters to read. So last we left off in Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. If I recall, Camp Half-Blood was being run by this guy named Tantalus, who's just a complete goober, but in like a bad way. Oh no. Did you crample him, dude? Coleman, quit crampling people. Percy met a god named Hermes. And Hermes gave him some, good advice where sometimes doing the wrong thing, or supposedly the wrong thing, so long as you make up for it with your actions going forward, can be okay. Going against the rules is sometimes okay if it's for the right cause. So Hermes offered him that advice and then gave him the opportunity to do that very thing and leave the camp against Dionysus and Tantalus's orders. And so they, out of the blue, without like notice, they scooted on out of there and onto a cruise ship. It was kind of creepy. The cruise ship was heckin' creepy because there was no one around. They weren't even sure who was like driving the darn thing. But they found themselves an empty cabin. And spent the night. But when they awoke, suddenly the cruise ship was filled to the brim, or very full of people. But all of them had this like the blank look on their faces, like they were in a trance of some kind. And around them were monsters, as well as other demigods, training with the monsters. Or training like in view of the monsters, with the monsters cheering them on even. So, that was weird, certainly. And they suddenly very quickly realized this place isn't exactly the best place to be. They met with Luke, sadly, in a, after Tyson like listened in to what Tyson was discussing with his furry goon. Luke soon caught on and caught them, and after a lengthy discussion with Luke, they wound up getting booted out, but they made their daring escape by beating up one of the furry goons and trying to get the heck out of there. So that is where we left off, I believe. They were trying to make their daring escape. I believe they had just gotten to a lifeboat and were about to set sail with a cacophony of monsters, making their way towards them. So let's get at it. This is Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan. 10. We hitch a ride with dead Confederates. Thermos! I screamed as we hurtled toward the water. What? Annabeth must have thought I'd lost my mind. She was holding on to the boat straps for dear life, her hair flying straight up like a torch. But Tyson understood. He managed to open my duffel bag and take out Hermes' magical thermos without losing his grip on it or the boat. Arrows and javelins whistled past us. I grabbed the thermos and hoped I was doing the right thing. Hang on! I am hanging on! Annabeth yelled, Tighter! I hooked my feet under the boat's inflatable bench, and as Tyson grabbed Annabeth and me by the backs of our shirts, I gave the thermos cap a quarter turn. Instantly, a white sheet of wind jetted out of the thermos and propelled us sideways, turning our downward plummet into a 45-degree crash landing. The wind seemed to laugh as it shot from the thermos, like it was glad to be free. As we hit the ocean, we bumped once, twice, skipping like a stone. Then we were whizzing along like a speedboat. Salt spray in our faces, and nothing but sea ahead. I heard a wail of outrage from the ship behind us, but we were already out of weapon range. The Princess Andromeda faded to the size of a white toy boat in the distance. And then it was gone. As we raced over the sea, Annabeth and I tried to send an iris message to Chiron. We figured it was important we let somebody know what Luke was doing, and we didn't know who else to trust. The wind from the thermos stirred up a nice sea spray that made a rainbow in the sunlight, perfect for an iris message. But our connection was still poor. When Annabeth threw a golden drachma into the mist and prayed for the rainbow goddess to show us Chiron, his face appeared all right, but there was some kind of weird strobe light flashing in the background and rock music blaring, like he was at a dance club. We told him about sneaking away from camp, and Luke and the Princess Andromeda and the golden box for Kronos' remains. But between the noise on his end and the rushing wind and water on ours, I'm not sure how much he actually heard.
Percy!
Chiron yelled.
You have to watch out for...
His voice was drowned out by loud shouting behind him, a bunch of voices whooping it up like Kamonk warriors. What? I yelled.
Curse my relatives.
Chiron ducked as a plate flew over his head and shattered somewhere out of sight.
Annabeth, you shouldn't have let Percy leave camp. But if you do get the fleece...
Yeah, baby! Someone behind Chiron yelled. Woohoo! Music got cranked up. Subwoofers so loud it made our boat vibrate.
Miami,
Chiron was yelling.
I'll try to keep watch.
Our misty screen smashed apart like someone on the other side had thrown a bottle at it, and Chiron was gone. An hour later, we spotted land. A long stretch of beach lined with high-rise hotels. The water became crowded with fishing boats and tankers. A Coast Guard cruiser passed on our starboard side, then turned like it wanted a second look. I guess it isn't every day they see a yellow lifeboat with no engine going 100 knots an hour, manned by only 3 kids. That's Virginia Beach, Annabeth said as we approached the shoreline. Oh my gods, how did the Princess Andromeda travel so far overnight? That's like 530 nautical miles, I said. She stared at me. How did you know that? I'm not sure. Annabeth thought for a moment. Percy, what's our position? 36 degrees, 44 minutes north, 76 degrees, 2 minutes west. I said immediately, then shook my head. Whoa, how did I know that? Because of your dad, Annabeth guessed. When you're at sea, you have perfect bearings. That is so cool. I wasn't sure about that. I didn't want to be a human GPS unit, but before I could say anything, Tyson tapped my shoulder.
Other boat is coming.
I looked back. The Coast Guard vessel was definitely on our tail now. Its lights were flashing, and it was gaining speed. We can't let them catch us, I said. They'll ask too many questions. Keep going into Chesapeake Bay, Annabeth said. I know a place we can hide. I didn't ask what she meant, or how she knew the area so well. I risked loosening the thermos cap a little more, and a fresh burst of wind sent us rocketing around the northern tip of Virginia Beach into Chesapeake Bay. The Coast Guard boat fell further and further behind. We didn't slow down until the shores of the bay narrowed on either side, and I realized we'd entered the mouth of a river. I could feel the change from salt water to fresh. Suddenly, I was tired and frazzled, like I was coming down off a sugar high. I didn't know where I was anymore, or which way to steer the boat. It was a good thing Annabeth was directing me. There, she said. Past the sandbar. We veered into a swampy area choked with marsh grass. I beached the lifeboat at the foot of a giant cypress. Vine-covered trees loomed over us. Insects chirred in the woods. The air was muggy and hot, and steam curled off the river. Basically, it wasn't Manhattan, and I didn't like that. Come on, Annabeth said. It's just down the bank. What is? I asked. Just follow. She grabbed a duffel bag. And we'd better cover the boat. We don't want to draw any attention. After burying the lifeboat with branches, Tyson and I followed Annabeth along the shore, our feet sinking in red mud. A snake slithered past my shoe and disappeared into the grass.
Not a good place,
Tyson said. He swatted the mosquitoes that were forming a buffer line on his arm. Or a buffet line on his arm. After another few minutes, Annabeth said, Here. All I saw was a patch of brambles. Then Annabeth moved aside a wooden circle of branches like a door, and I realized I was looking into a camouflaged shelter. The inside was big enough for 3, even with Tyson being the 3rd. The walls were woven from plant material, like a Native American hut, but they looked pretty waterproof. Stacked in the corner was everything you could want for a campout. Sleeping bags, blankets, an ice chest, and a kerosene lamp. But, there were demigod provisions too. Bronze javelin tips, a quiver full of arrows, an extra sword, and a box of ambrosia. The place smelled musty, like it had been vacant for a long time. A half-blood hideout. I looked at Annabeth in awe. You made this place? Thalia and I, she said quietly. And Luke. That shouldn't have bothered me. I mean, I knew Thalia and Luke had taken care of Annabeth when she was little. I knew the 3 of them had been runaways together, hiding from monsters, surviving on their own before Grover found them and tried to get them to Half-Blood Hill. But whenever Annabeth talked about the time she'd spent with them, I kind of felt, I don't know, uncomfortable? No, that's not the word. That's not the word. The word was jealous. So, I said, you don't think Luke will look for us here? She shook her head. We made a half-dozen safe houses like this. I doubt Luke even remembers where they are. Or cares. She threw herself down on the blankets and started going through her duffel bag. Her body language made it pretty clear she didn't want to talk. Tyson, I said, would you mind scouting around outside? Look for a wilderness convenience store or something?
Convenience store?
Yeah, for snacks. Powdered donuts or something. Just don't go too far.
Powdered donuts,
Tyson said earnestly.
I will look for powdered donuts in the wilderness.
He headed outside and started calling,
Here, donuts!
Once he was gone, I sat down across from Annabeth. Hey, I'm sorry about, seeing Luke. It's not your fault. She unsheathed her knife and started cleaning the blade with a rag. He let us go too easily, I said. I hoped I'd been imagining it, but Annabeth nodded. I was thinking the same thing. What we overheard him say about a gamble, and they'll take the bait. I think he was talking about us. The fleece is the bait. Or Grover. She studied the edge of her knife. I don't know, Percy. Maybe he wants the fleece for himself. Maybe he's hoping we'll do the hard work, and then he can steal it from us. I just can't believe he would poison the tree. What did he mean? I asked. That Thalia would have been on his side? Or that Thalia would have been on his side? He's wrong. You don't sound sure. Annabeth glared at me, and I started to wish I hadn't asked her about this while she was holding a knife. Percy, you know who you remind me of most? Thalia. You guys are so much alike, it's scary. I mean, either you would have been best friends, or you would have strangled each other. Let's go with best friends? Thalia got angry with her dad sometimes. So do you. Would you turn against Olympus because of that? I stared at the quiver of arrows in the corner. No. Okay, then. Neither would she. Luke's wrong. Annabeth stuck her knife blade into the dirt. I wanted to ask her about the prophecy Luke had mentioned, and what it had to do with my 16th birthday, but I figured she wouldn't tell me. Chiron had made it pretty clear that I wasn't allowed to hear it until the gods decided otherwise. So, what did Luke mean about Cyclopses? I asked. He said you of all people. I know what he said. He was talking about the real reason Thalia died. I waited, not sure what to say. Annabeth drew a shaky breath. You can never trust a Cyclops, Percy. 6 years ago, on the night Grover was leading us to Half-Blood Hill, she was interrupted when the door of the hut creaked open. Tyson crawled in.
Powdered donuts,
he said proudly, holding up a pastry box. Annabeth stared at him. Where did you get that? We're in the middle of the wilderness. There's nothing around for...
50 feet,
Tyson said.
Monster donut shop. Just over the hill.
This is bad, Annabeth muttered. We were crouching behind a tree, staring at the donut shop in the middle of the woods. It looked brand new, with brightly lit windows, a parking area, and a little road leading off into the forest. But there was nothing else around, and no cars parked in the lot. We could see one employee reading a magazine behind the cash register. That was it. On the store's marquee, in huge black letters that even I could read, it said, Monster Donut. A cartoon ogre was taking a bite out of the O in Monster. The place smelled good, like fresh-baked chocolate donuts. This shouldn't be here, Annabeth whispered. It's wrong. What? I asked. It's a donut shop. Shh. Why are we whispering? Tyson went in and bought a dozen. Nothing happened to him. He's a monster. Come on, Annabeth. Monster Donut doesn't mean monsters. It's a chain. We've got them in New York. A chain, she agreed. And don't you think it's strange that one appeared immediately after you told Tyson to get donuts? Right here, in the middle of the woods? I thought about it. It did seem a little weird, but I mean, donut shops weren't real high on my list of sinister forces. It could be a nest, Annabeth explained. Tyson whimpered. I doubt he understood what Annabeth was saying any better than I did, but her tone was making him nervous. He'd plowed through half a dozen donuts from his box and was getting powdered sugar all over his face. A nest for what? I asked. Haven't you ever wondered how franchise stores pop up so fast? She asked. One day, there's nothing. And then the next day, boom, there's a new burger place, or a coffee shop, or whatever. First a single store, then 2, then 4. Exact replicas spreading across the country. No, never thought about it. Percy, some of the chains multiply so fast because all their locations are magically linked to the life force of a monster. Some children of Hermes figured out how to do it back in the 1950s. They breed. She froze. What? I demanded. They breed what? No sudden moves, Annabeth said, like her life depended on it. Very slowly turn around. Then I heard it, a scraping noise, like something large dragging its belly through the leaves. I turned and saw a rhino-sized thing moving through the shadows of the trees. It was hissing, its front half writhing in all directions. I couldn't understand what I was seeing at first. Then I realized the thing had multiple necks, at least 7, each topped with a hissing reptilian head. Its skin was leathery, and under each neck it wore a plastic bib that read, I'm a Monster Donut Kid. I took out my ballpoint pen, but Annabeth locked eyes with me, a silent warning. Not yet. I understood. A lot of monsters have terrible eyesight. It was possible the Hydra might pass us by. But if I uncapped my sword now, the bronze glow would certainly get its attention. We waited. The Hydra was only a few feet away. It seemed to be sniffing the ground and the trees like it was hunting for something. Then I noticed that 2 of the heads were ripping apart a piece of yellow canvas. One of our duffel bags. The thing had already been to our campsite. It was following our scent. My heart pounded. I had seen a stuffed Hydra head trophy at camp before, but that did nothing to prepare me for the real thing. Each head was diamond-shaped, like a rattlesnake's, but the mouths were lined with jagged rows of shark-like teeth. Tyson was trembling. He stepped back and accidentally snapped a twig. Immediately, all 7 heads turned towards us and hissed. Scatter! Annabeth yelled, and she dove to the right. I rolled to the left. One of the Hydra heads spat an arc of green liquid that shot past my shoulder and splashed against an elm. The trunk smoked and began to disintegrate. The whole tree toppled straight toward Tyson, who still hadn't moved, petrified by the monster that was now right in front of him. Tyson! I tackled him with all my might, knocking him aside just as the Hydra lunged, and the tree crashed on top of its 2 heads. Of 2 of its heads. The Hydra stumbled backwards, yanking its heads free, then wailing in outrage at the fallen tree. All 7 heads shot acid, and the elm melted into a steaming pool of muck. Move! I told Tyson. I ran to one side and uncapped Riptide, hoping to draw the monster's attention. It worked. The side of celestial bronze is hateful to most monsters. As soon as my glowing blade appeared, the Hydra whipped toward it with all of its heads, hissing and baring its teeth. The good news, Tyson was momentarily out of danger. The bad news, I was about to be melted into a puddle of goo. One of the heads snapped at me experimentally. Without thinking, I swung my sword. "No!" Annabeth yelled. Too late. I sliced the Hydra's head clean off. It rolled away into the grass, leaving a flailing stump, which immediately stopped bleeding and began to swell like a balloon. In a matter of seconds, the wounded neck split into two necks, each of which grew a full-sized head. Now I was looking at an 8-headed Hydra. "Percy!" Annabeth scolded. "You just opened another monster donut shop somewhere." I dodged a spray of acid. "I'm about to die, and you're worried about that? How do we kill it?" "Fire," Annabeth said. "We have to have fire." As soon as she said that, I remembered the story. The Hydra's heads would only stop multiplying if we burnt the stumps before they regrew. That's what Hercules had done anyway. But we had no fire. I backed up toward the river. The Hydra followed. Annabeth moved in on my left and tried to distract one of the heads, burying its teeth with her knife, but another head swung sideways like a club and knocked her into the muck.
"No hitting my friends!"
Tyson charged in, putting himself between the Hydra and Annabeth. As Annabeth got to her feet, Tyson started smashing at the monster's heads with his fists so fast it reminded me of a whack-a-mole game at the arcade. But even Tyson couldn't fend off the Hydra forever. We kept inching backwards, dodging acid splashes and deflecting snapping heads without cutting them off. But I knew we were only postponing our deaths. Eventually, we would make a mistake, and the thing would kill us. Then I heard a strange sound. A chug, 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 that at first I thought was my heartbeat. It was so powerful, it made the riverbank shake. "What's that noise?" Annabeth shouted, keeping her eyes on the Hydra.
"Steam engine,"
Tyson said. "What?" I ducked as the Hydra spat acid over my head. Then, from the river behind us, a familiar female voice shouted, "There! Prepare the 32-pounder!" Or, "There! Prepare the 32-pounder!" I didn't dare look away from the Hydra. But if that was who I thought it was behind us, I figured we now had enemies on 2 fronts. A gravelly male voice said, "They're too close, m'lady." "Damned heroes," the girl said. "Full steam ahead." "Full steam ahead." "Aye, m'lady." "Fire at will, Captain." Annabeth understood what was happening a split second before I did. She yelled, "Hit the dirt!" And we dove for the ground as an earth-shattering boom echoed from the river. There was a flash of light, a column of smoke, and the Hydra exploded right in front of us, showering us with nasty green slime that vaporized as soon as it hit, the way monster guts tend to do. "Gross!" screamed Annabeth.
"Steamship!"
yelled Tyson. I stood, coughing from the cloud of gunpowder smoke that was rolling across the banks. Chugging toward us down the river was the strangest ship I'd ever seen. It rode low in the water like a submarine, its deck plated with iron. In the middle was a trapezoid-shaped casemate with slats on each side for cannons. A flag waved from the top, a wild boar and spear on a blood-red field. Lining the deck were zombies in gray uniforms, dead soldiers with shimmering faces that only partially covered their skulls, like the ghouls I'd seen in the underworld guarding Hades' palace. The ship was an ironclad, the Civil War battle cruiser. I could just make out the name along the prow in moss-covered letters. CSS Birmingham. And standing next to the smoking cannon that had almost killed us, wearing full Greek battle armor, was Clarice. "Losers," she sneered. But I suppose I have to rescue you. Come aboard." Well, that was Chapter 10. Heck yeah. Looks like we're on schedule as well. Bro, I want powdered donuts now. Yeah, dude. I especially want them from Monster Donut. Sounds like a good shop. I like their logo. I think it's solid. With the big old ogre taking a bite out of the O. I mean, come on. Who wouldn't go to a donut shop like that? Don't deny it. That was sweet, though. Did anyone, I don't know, I guess the title kind of gives it away, but did anyone think that their lives actually were in danger with that Hydra? Also, can we talk about how, like, the Hydra itself is why, like the Hydra, the mythical creature, the Hydra, is the reason why fast food and, like, coffee and any, like, restaurant chains exist. That's wacky. The one from McDonald's must be terrifying, right? With, like, I don't even know, like hundreds of heads. I don't know. I really like that concept. LMAO. I assumed they were fine because they were the main characters. What? What? What are you talking about, dude? There's not 3 books left in the series, you goober. In fact, that was that could have been the final chapter. Sorry, I'm being sarcastic, as you could probably tell. Nice. Well, that was pretty sweet. Dude, the fact that honestly, that moment though where Tyson like comes back with donuts is a pretty good one. It breaks the tension, and it's also like just really confuddling too. Tyson leaves for like 10 minutes and comes back and is like, leaves for 10 minutes shouting, "Here, donuts!" and comes back 10 minutes later with a dozen. Wacky, dude. However, I don't know. I did want to hear more of what Annabeth had to say, you know, about how she felt about Luke and all that. However, she didn't really want to talk about it. Good on Percy, though. Can we talk about, like, good on Percy for finding an excuse to, like, send Tyson off on an escapade so that they could actually, you know, talk, like, real talk for a little while. Good on Percy. Like, that was some quick thinking. Some thoughtful thinking, too. Some good stuff. Thoughtful thinking. Dude, I love when I have thoughtful thoughts. It's just a good thing. Hex yeah. Okay. Well, I won't I don't know. We're going to try to keep like the little discussion portions a little bit shorter. So that we can end on time today. Dude, yeah. Tyson's just doing his best. I love that boy. Yeah, the moment in there where he's like,
No hurting my friends!
that was tight. He was terrified, yet he faced his fear regardless. Inspiring, dude. Inspiring. Cool beans. All right, let's go ahead and jump to the break real quick. It's about 8:48, so I will be back no later than 9, let's say. I'll probably be back before then. I'll shoot for about 5 minutes, but if I'm back a little bit later than that, you know, don't worry. I will in fact be back. So yeah, as I do every time, I urge everybody to stand up, stretch out a little bit, shake off your troubles and tribulations. Get yourself some water or any kind of snack that you might want for this next chapter. And I'll be seeing ya in about 5 to 8 minutes. Cool beans? Cool beans. And break. See you soon, my wildflowers. Be right back.
What you playing? I had an idea. Well, a song idea, but also an idea.
Let's hear it.
Yes, please.
I don't need you. I don't need you.
Room for 3 more?
I don't need you. But I want you to love me. I don't need you. But I want you to know me. Change your mind.
What if something bad happens?
Well, what if something good happens?
I need you. Need you. I need you.
Always.
I need you.
Always.
Need you. I need you.
Always. So why didn't you just come back?
I want to, but I just...
I need you. Need you. I need you.
Always.
I need you.
Always.
Need you. I need you.
Always.
Let's hear it.
I might have overreacted.
Stephen, there's one more thing I had to mention.
What is it?
I love you. Bye.
See you later.
Until we accept reality, we can't make any progress.
It's a shame. I was comfortable there. It was all fun while it lasted, but it's time to bid a kind goodbye. Yeah, life goes on like it always does. That's true.
What's cramplers? I hope everybody had a cramplin' good time on their break, as I did. Yeah. I see that we're still having some trouble with Coleman's name, but I think he might have fixed it. I'm hoping so. And yeah, hey, how's it going, May? I love that little like GIF of Snoop in the BRB page. It's like the one right over there, but he's a lot more sleepy. Oh no. It's still trying to deny it. Oh my goodness. I thought, like, is that just like a one-time thing where it'll allow it for just that one time, or is it like once I allow it, it's good for all time? I'm not entirely sure about how that works. Oh yeah, super rad Snoops. I know I need some like some Cool Joe gifs as well. Cool Joe. Yeah. For some reason, with the exclamation point, it still doesn't like it. Oh man. Well, hey, what can you do? So for those of you that weren't here for the first chapter, you know, they just made their daring escape from Monster Boat, made their way made their daring escape, wound up in like a bit of a marshy area where Annabeth took them to a hideout that she had created along with Thalia and Luke when they were, during their days on the run, when she was very young. They sent Tyson out to find powdered donuts in the woods, and he came back with a dozen. It was very odd because there's nothing else around for miles and miles, so they went to check it out, but lo and behold, it was actually the realm of a Hydra. They ran into the Hydra, tried to fight it off as best they could, but they didn't have any fire, so it was kind of a hopeless endeavor until Clarice showed up, the daughter of the war god, who had been sent on the mission instead of Percy and his gang. She showed up and saved their butts. And now, that's where we left off. Don't worry, we'll find a way. We will find a way to say Kramples. At the very least, I can say it. I can say it for us all up here. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into I almost said chapter 6. Chapter 11. By the way, 11 is my favorite number. Fun fact. Wait, I'm still reading the first book, but I wanted to pass by and wish you a great stream. Thanks, May. I appreciate it. Again, if you're reading through the first book, I do have all the streams on my second YouTube page. It's called Mary Mitch Meadow, just like the Discord. That's where my stream dump happens. So if you ever want to be reading along with me, you can check it out there. So yeah, let's go ahead and get comfy and let's jump into chapter 11. Alright, this is Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan. 11. Clarice blows up everything. You are in so much trouble, Clarice said. We just finished a ship tour we didn't want. Through dark rooms overcrowded with dead sailors. We'd seen the coal bunker, the boilers and engine, which huffed and groaned like it would explode any minute. We'd seen the pilot house and the powder magazine and gunnery deck, Clarice's favorite, with two Dahlgren smoothbore cannons on the port and starboard side, and a Brook 9-inch rifled gun and a Brook 9-inch rifled gun fore and aft, all specially refitted to fire celestial bronze cannonballs. Everywhere we went, dead Confederate soldiers stared at us, their ghostly bearded faces shimmering over their skulls. They approved of Annabeth because she told them she was from Virginia. They were interested in me, too, because my name was Jackson, like the Southern general. But then I ruined it by telling them I was from New York. They all hissed and muttered curses about Yankees. Tyson was terrified of them. All through the tour, he insisted Annabeth hold his hand, which she didn't look too thrilled about. Finally, we were escorted to dinner. The CSS Birmingham captain's quarters were about the size of a walk-in closet, but still much bigger than any other room on board. The table was set with white linen and china. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, potato chips, and Dr. Pepper were served by skeletal crewmen. I didn't want to eat anything served by ghosts, but my hunger overruled my fear. Tantalus expelled you for eternity, Clarice told us smugly. Or Tantalus expelled you for eternity, Clarice told us smugly. Mr. D said if any of you show your faces at camp again, he'll turn you into squirrels and run you over with his SUV. Did they give you this ship? Course not. My father did. Ares? Clarice sneered. You think your daddy is the only one with sea power? The spirits on the losing side of every war owe a tribute to Ares. That's their curse for being defeated. I prayed to my father for a naval transport, and here it is. These guys will do anything I tell them. Won't you, Captain? The captain stood behind her, looking stiff and angry. His glowing green eyes fixed me with a hungry stare. If it means an end to this infernal war, ma'am, peace at last, we'll do anything. Destroy anyone. Clarice smiled. Destroy anyone. I like that. Tyson gulped. Clarice, Annabeth said, Luke might be after the fleece too. We saw him. He's got the coordinates, and he's headed south. He has a cruise ship full of monsters and... Good. I'll blow him out of the water. You don't understand, Annabeth said. We have to combine forces. Let us help you. No. Clarice pounded the table. This is my quest, smart girl. Finally, I get to be the hero, and you two will not steal my chance. Where are your cabin mates? I asked. You were allowed to take 2 friends with you, weren't you? They didn't. I let them stay behind. To protect the camp. You mean even the people in your own cabin wouldn't help you? Shut up, Prissy. I don't need them. Or you. Clarice, I said, Tantalus is using you. He doesn't care about the camp. He'd love to see it destroyed. He's setting you up to fail. No. I don't care what the Oracle... She stopped herself. What? I said. What did the Oracle tell you? Nothing. Clarice's ears turned pink. All you need to know is that I'm finishing this quest and you're not helping. On the other hand, I can't let you go. So we're prisoners? Annabeth asked. Guests. For now. Clarice propped her feet up on the white linen tablecloth and opened another Dr. Pepper. Captain, take them below. Assign them hammocks on the berth deck. If they don't mind their manners, show them how we deal with enemy spies. The dream came as soon as I fell asleep. Grover was sitting at his loom, desperately unraveling his wedding train, when the boulder door rolled aside and the Cyclops bellowed.
Aha!
Grover yelped. Dear, I didn't. You were so quiet.
Unraveling!
Polyphemus roared.
So that's the problem.
Oh no, I wasn't.
Come.
Polyphemus grabbed Grover around the waist, and half carried, half dragged him through the tunnel of the cave. Grover struggled to keep his high heels on his hooves. His veil kept tilting on his head, threatening to come off. The Cyclops pulled him into the warehouse-sized cavern, decorated with sheep junk. There was a wool-covered lazy boy recliner and a wool-covered television set, crude bookshelves loaded with sheep collectibles, coffee mugs shaped like sheep faces, plaster figurines of sheep board games, and picture books and action figures. The floor was littered with piles of sheep bones, and other bones that didn't look exactly like sheep, the bones of satyrs who'd come to the island looking for Pan. Polyphemus set Grover down only long enough to move another huge boulder. Daylight streamed into the cave, and Grover whimpered with longing. Fresh air. The Cyclops dragged him outside to the hilltop, overlooking the most beautiful island I'd ever seen. It was shaped kind of like a saddle cut in half by an axe. There were lush green hills on either side, and a wide valley in the middle, split by a deep chasm that was spanned by a rope bridge. Beautiful streams rolled to the edge of the canyon and dropped off in rainbow-colored waterfalls. Parrots fluttered in the trees, pink and purple flowers bloomed on the bushes. Hundreds of sheep grazed in the meadows, their wool glinting strangely like copper and silver coins. And at the center of the island, right next to the rope bridge, was an enormous twisted oak tree with something glittering in its lowest branch. The golden fleece. Even in a dream, I could feel its power radiating across the island, making the grass greener, the flowers more beautiful. I could almost smell the nature magic at work. I could only imagine how powerful the scent would be for a satyr. Grover whimpered.
Yes, Polyphemus said proudly. See over there? Fleece is the prize of my collection. Stole it from the heroes long ago. And ever since, free food. Satyrs come from all over the world, like moths to flame. Satyrs good eating. And now...
Polyphemus scooped up a wicked set of bronze shears. Grover yelped, but Polyphemus just picked up the nearest sheep like it was a stuffed animal and shaved off its wool. He handed a fluffy mass over to Grover.
Put that on the spinning wheel,
he said proudly.
Magic cannot be unraveled.
Oh, well...
Poor honey pie.
Polyphemus grinned.
Bad weaver. Ha ha. Not to worry. The thread will solve problem. Finish wedding train by tomorrow.
Isn't that thoughtful of you? But dear, Grover gulped. What if someone were to attack this island? Grover looked straight at me, and I knew he was asking for my benefit. What What would keep them from marching right up there to your cave?
Wifey's scared. So cute. Not to worry. Polyphemus has state-of-the-art security system. Have to get through my pets.
Pets? Grover looked across the island, but there was nothing to see except sheep grazing peacefully in the meadows.
And then,
Polyphemus growled,
they would have to get through me.
He pounded his fist against the nearest rock, which cracked and split in half.
Now come,
he shouted.
Back to the cave.
Grover looked about ready to cry. So close to freedom, but so hopelessly far. Tears welled in his eyes as the boulder door rolled shut, sealing him once again in the stinky torchlit darkness of the Cyclops' cave. I woke to alarm bells ringing throughout the ship. The captain's gravelly voice,
All hands on deck. Find Lady Clarice. Where is that girl? Where is that girl?
Then his ghostly face appeared above me.
Get up, Yankee. Your friends are already above. We are approaching the entrance.
The entrance to what? He gave me a skeletal smile.
The Sea of Monsters, of course.
I stuffed my few belongings that had survived the Hydra into a sailor's canvas knapsack and slung it over my shoulder. I had a sneaking suspicion that one way or another, I would not be spending another night aboard the CS Birmingham. I was on my way upstairs when something made me freeze. A presence nearby, something familiar and unpleasant. For no particular reason, I felt like picking a fight. I wanted to punch a dead Confederate. The last time I'd felt that kind of anger. Instead of going up, I crept to the edge of the ventilation grate and peered down into the boiler deck. Clarice was standing right below me, talking to an image that shimmered in the steam like the boilers. A muscular man in black leather biker clothes, with a military haircut, red tinted glasses, and a knife strapped to his side. His fists clenched. It was my least favorite Olympian, Ares, the god of war.
I don't want excuses, little girl,
he growled. Yes, father, Clarice mumbled.
You don't want to see me mad, do you?
No, father.
No, father,
Ares mimicked.
You're pathetic. I should have let one of my sons take this quest.
I'll succeed, Clarice promised, her voice trembling. I'll make you proud.
You'd better,
he warned.
You asked me for this quest, girl. If you let that slimeball Jackson kid steal it from you.
But the Oracle said...
I don't care what it said,
Ares bellowed with such force that his image shimmered.
You will succeed. And if you don't...
He raised his fist. Even though he was only a figure in the steam, Clarice flinched.
Do we understand each other?
Ares growled. The alarm bells rang again. I heard voices coming toward me, officers yelling orders to ready the cannons. I crept back from the ventilation grate and made my way upstairs to join Annabeth and Tyson on the spar deck. What's wrong? Annabeth asked me. Another dream? I nodded, but I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to think about what I'd seen downstairs. It bothered me almost as much as the dream about Grover. Clarice came up the stairs right after me. I tried not to look at her. She grabbed a pair of binoculars from a zombie officer and peered toward the horizon. At last! Captain! Full steam ahead! I looked in the same direction as she was, but I couldn't see much. The sky was overcast. The air was hazy and humid, like steam from an iron. If I squinted real hard, I could just make out a couple of dark fuzzy splotches in the distance. My nautical senses told me we were somewhere off the coast of northern Florida, so we'd come a long way overnight. Farther than any mortal ship should have been able to travel. The engine groaned as we increased speed. Tyson muttered nervously,
"Too much strain on the pistons. Not meant for deep water."
I wasn't sure how he knew that, but it made me nervous. After a few more minutes, the dark splotches ahead of us came into focus. To the north, a huge mass of rock rose out of the sea, an island with cliffs at least 100 feet tall. About half a mile south of that was the other patch of darkness, about a half a mile south of that, the other patch of darkness was a storm brewing. The sky and sea boiled together in a roaring mass. "Hurricane?" Annabeth asked. "No," Clarice said. "Charybdis." Annabeth paled. "Are you crazy?" "Only way into the Sea of Monsters. Straight between Charybdis and her sister Skyla. Clarice pointed to the top of the cliffs, and I got the feeling something lived up there that I did not want to meet. "What do you mean, the only way?" I asked. "The sea's wide open. Just sail around them." Clarice rolled her eyes. "Don't you know anything? If I tried to sail around them, they would just appear in my path again. If you want to get into the Sea of Monsters, you have to sail through them." "What about the clashing rocks?" Annabeth said. "That's another gateway. Jason used it." "I can't blow apart rocks with my cannons," Clarice said. "Monsters, on the other hand." "You are crazy," Annabeth decided. "Watch and learn, wise girl." Clarice turned to the captain. "Set a course for Charybdis."
"Aye, m'lady."
The engine groaned, the iron plating rattled, and the ship began to pick up speed. "Clarice," I said, "Charybdis sucks up the sea. Isn't that the story?" "And spits it back out again." "Yeah." "What about Skyla?" "She lives in a cave up on those cliffs. If we get too close, her snaky heads will come down and start plucking sailors off the ship. "Choose Skyla, then," I said. "Everybody goes below deck. We chug right past." "No," Clarice insisted. "If Skyla doesn't get her easy meat, she might pick up the whole ship. Besides, she's too high to make a good target. My cannons can't shoot straight up. Charybdis Charybdis just sits there at the center of her whirlwind. We're going to steam straight towards her, train our guns on her, and blow her into Tartarus." She said it with such relish, I almost wanted to believe her. The engine hummed. The boilers were heating up so much, I could feel the deck getting warm beneath my feet. The smokestacks billowed. The red Ares flag whipped in the wind. As we got closer to the monsters, the sound of Charybdis got louder and louder. A horrible, wet roar, like the galaxy's biggest toilet being flushed. Every time Charybdis inhaled, the ship shuddered and lurched forwards. Every time she exhaled, we rose in the water and were buffeted by 10-foot waves. I tried to time the whirlpool. As near as I could figure, it took Charybdis about 3 minutes to suck up and destroy everything within a half-mile radius. To avoid her, we would have to skirt right next to Skyla's cliffs. And as bad as Skyla might be, those cliffs were looking awfully good to me. Undead soldiers calmly went about their business on the spar deck. I guess they'd fought a losing cause before, so this didn't bother them. Or maybe they didn't care about getting destroyed because they were already deceased. Neither thought made me feel any better. Annabeth stood next to me, gripping the rail. "You still have that thermos full of wind?" I nodded. "But it's too dangerous to use in the whirlwind. Or it's too dangerous to use in the whirlpool like that. More wind might just make things worse." "What about controlling the water?" she asked. "You're Poseidon's son. You've done it before." She was right. I closed my eyes and tried to calm the sea, but I couldn't concentrate. Charybdis was too loud and powerful. The waves wouldn't respond. I can't," I said miserably. "We need a backup plan," Annabeth said. "This isn't going to work."
Annabeth is right, Tyson said. Engine's no good.
What do you mean? What do you mean? She asked.
Pressure. Pistons need fixing.
Before he could explain, the cosmic toilet flushed with a mighty roar. Roar. The ship lurched forwards, and I was thrown to the deck. We were in the whirlpool. "Full reverse!" Clarice screamed above the noise. The sea churned around us, waves crashing over the deck. The iron plating was now so hot it steamed. "Get us within firing range! Make ready the starboard cannons!" Dead Confederates rushed back and forth. The propeller grinded into reverse, trying to slow the ship, but we kept sliding toward the center of the vortex. A zombie sailor burst out of the hold and ran to Clarice. His gray uniform was smoking. His beard was on fire.
"Boiler room's overheating, ma'am. She's going to blow."
"Well, get down there and fix it."
"Can't,"
the sailor yelled.
"We're vaporizing in the heat."
Clarice pounded the side of the casemate. "All I need is a few more minutes. Just enough to get in range."
"We're going in too fast. We're going in too fast,"
the captain said grimly.
"Prepare yourselves for death." "No,"
Tyson bellowed.
"I can fix it."
Clarice looked at him incredulously. "You?" "He's a Cyclops," Annabeth said. "He's immune to fire, and he knows mechanics." "Go!" yelled Clarice. "Tyson, no!" I grabbed his arms. "It's too dangerous." He patted my hand.
"Only way, brother."
His expression was determined, confident even. I'd never seen him look like this before.
"I will fix it. Be right back."
As I watched him follow the smoldering sailor down the hatch, I had a terrible feeling. I wanted to run after him, but the ship lurched again. And then I saw Charybdis. She appeared only a few hundred yards away, through a swirl of mist and smoke and water. The first thing I noticed was the reef, the black crag of coral with a fig tree clinging to the top. An oddly peaceful thing in the middle of a maelstrom. All around it, water curved into a funnel, like light around a black hole. Then I saw the horrible thing anchored to the reef, just below the waterline. An enormous mouth with slimy lips and mossy teeth the size of rowboats. And worse, the teeth had braces, bands of corroded, scummy metal with pieces of fish and driftwood and floating garbage stuck between them. Charybdis was an orthodontist's nightmare. She was nothing but a huge black maw with bad teeth alignment and a serious overbite. And she'd done nothing for centuries but eat without brushing after meals. As I watched, the entire sea around her was sucked into the void. Sharks, schools of fish, a giant squid, and I realized that in a few seconds, the CSS Birmingham would be next.
Lady Clarice, the captain shouted. Starboard and forward guns are in range.
Fire! Clarice ordered. 3 rounds were blasted into the monster's maw. One blew off the edge of an incisor. Another disappeared into her gullet. The third hit one of Charybdis's remaining bands and shot back at us, snapping the Ares flag off its pole. Again! Clarice ordered. The gunners reloaded, but I knew it was hopeless. We would have to pound the monster 100 more times to do any real damage. And we didn't have that long. We were being sucked in too fast. Then the vibrations in the deck changed. The hum of the engine got stronger and steadier. The ship shuddered, and we started pulling away from its mouth. Tyson did it, Annabeth said. Wait, Clarice said. We need to stay close. We'll die, I said. We have to move away. I gripped the tail as the ship fought against the suction. The broken Ares flag raced past us and lodged in Charybdis's braces. We weren't making much progress, but at least we were holding our own. Tyson had somehow given us just enough juice to keep the ship from being sucked in. Suddenly, the mouth snapped shut. The sea died to absolute calm. Water washed over Charybdis. Then, just as quickly as it had closed, the mouth exploded open, spitting out a wall of water, ejecting everything inedible, including our cannonballs, one of which slammed into the side of CSS Birmingham with a ding, like the bell on a carnival game. We were thrown backward on a wave that must have been 40 feet high. I used all my willpower to keep the ship from capsizing, but we were still spinning out of control, hurtling toward the cliffs on the opposite side of the strait. Another smoldering sailor burst out of the hold. He stumbled into Clarice, almost knocking them both overboard.
The engine is about to blow.
Where's Tyson? I demanded. It's still down there, the sailor said, holding it together somehow, though I don't know for how much longer. The captain said, We have to abandon ship. No, Clarice yelled. We have no choice, milady. The hull is already cracking apart. She can't. He never finished his sentence. Quick as lightning, something brown and green shot from the sky, snatched up the captain, and lifted him away. All that was left were his leather boots. Skyla! A sailor yelled, as another column of reptilian flesh shot from the cliffs and snapped him up. It happened so fast, it was like watching a laser beam rather than a monster. I couldn't even make out the thing's face, just a flash of teeth and scales. I uncapped Riptide and tried to swipe at the monster as it carried off another deckhand, but I was way too slow. Everyone get below, I yelled. We can't. Clarice drew her own sword. Below deck is in flames. Lifeboats, Annabeth said. Quick! They'll never get clear of the cliffs, Clarice said. We'll all be eaten. We have to try. Percy, the thermos. I can't leave, Tyson. We have to get the boats ready. Clarice took Annabeth's command. She and a few of the undead sailors uncovered one of the two emergency rowboats, while Skyla's heads rained from the sky, like a meteor shower with teeth, picking off Confederate sailors one after another. Get the other boat, I threw Annabeth the thermos. I'll get Tyson. You can't, she said. The heat will kill you. The heat will kill you. I didn't listen. I ran for the boiler room hatch. When suddenly my feet weren't touching the deck anymore. I was flying straight up, the wind whistling in my ears, the side of the cliff only a few inches from my face. Skyla had somehow caught me by the knapsack and was lifting me up toward her lair. Without thinking, I swung my sword behind me and managed to jab the thing in her beady yellow eye. She grunted and dropped me. The fall would have been bad enough, considering I was 100 feet in the air, but as I fell, the CSS Birmingham exploded below me. Kaboom! The engine room blew, sending chunks of ironclad flying in either direction like a fiery set of wings. Tyson! I yelled. The lifeboats had managed to get away from the ship, but not very far. Flaming wreckage was raining down. Clarice and Annabeth would either be smashed or burned, or pulled to the bottom by the force of the sinking hull. And that was thinking optimistically, assuming they got away from Skyla. Then I heard a different kind of explosion. The sound of Hermes' magic thermos being opened a little too far. White sheets of wind blasted in every direction, scattering the lifeboats, lifting me out of my free fall and propelling me across the ocean. I couldn't see anything. I spun in the air, got clonked on the head by something hard, and hit the water with a crash. That would have broken every bone in my body if I hadn't been the son of the sea god. The last thing I remembered was sinking in a burning sea, knowing that Tyson was gone forever, and wishing I were able to drown. Yikes, dude. Freaking yikes. Is Tyson gone? Is he gone? Dude. This is pretty much the most not okay thing. Dang, also guys, we're 164 pages into this book? What? Look at that. Hang on, sorry. Give you a better look. Dang. We're halfway through. Well, guys, I don't know if I can wait very long for this next chapter. God, dude, that ending line too. Wishing I were able to drown. I hope I gave that, like, when Percy yelled Tyson as he was, like, being lifted into the air. I really love that moment, and I hope that I gave that, like, the emotion I feel it deserved. I don't know. You guys can tell me. Dude. I forgot that the freaking ship explodes. That's wacky, dude. What in the world? Honestly, like, absolute chaos ensues in this chapter. Like, towards the end there, especially. What the hey? You crample my pants and call me Sally. That was wild. Goodness. Well, okay, guys. On that note, let's take a little break ski. I'm gonna try to keep it to about 5 minutes so that we can come back and continue this thing and see what the heck happened. Did Percy? Well, Percy obviously won't die. Is Tyson gone forever? Did Annabeth and Clarice and the Confederate ghouls make it out alive? I guess the ghouls definitely didn't, but hey. Find out in about 5 minutes. Don't go nowhere, my wildflowers. I love you bunches, and I will see you in 5 minutes. By 45 after the hour. Cool. Alright, be right back. Wink.
Starting tomorrow, I'll look everyone in the eye. Starting tomorrow.
Until we accept reality, we can't make any progress.
The boredom latches onto me. It is daylight, 81 degrees. I should be outside, enjoying the breeze. But I with me. Ignoring reality. I said it's only a dream. It's only a dream. I wish you could somehow complete me. I would give it to you all now, but I kinda lost my key. I've been lying, but I kinda lost the dream. I've been lying, but I kinda lost the dream. Well, this medication strong and I feel no. I guess you always have to try before you You say come here, love. Well, it'll be fine. Just talk to me. Ignoring reality. It's only a dream.
Dream. Hope you liked that one, dude. That was a remix that I did for Avery Tyrell. Really cool girl. Makes some nice music. And has a pretty as heck voice, if I do say so myself. Welcome back. How are you? I'm doing well. I missed you too, Nick. Like so bad. Like, dude. Like, I missed you, but listen. Like, I missed you so bad. I missed all of you so bad. It was a really good break. I made some water in the loo and came back. Did some stretching, you know, and yeah. Now I am back. I drank some of my kombucha, which is kind of making me burpy tonight, which I do apologize for. But yeah, how you guys doing? Are we ready to figure out what the heck happened to Percy? To figure out if Tyson is still alive? If the beautiful one-eyed boy still lives? Let's do it. Okay. This is Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan. 12. We check into CCS Spa Resort. We check into CC's Spa and Resort. I woke up in a rowboat with a makeshift sail stitched of gray uniform fabric. Annabeth sat next to me, tacking into the wind. I tried to sit up and immediately felt woozy. Rest, she said. You're going to need it. Tyson, she shook her head. Percy, I'm really sorry. We were silent while the waves tossed us up and down. He may have survived, she said half-heartedly. I mean, fire can't kill him. I nodded. But I had no reason to feel hopeful. I'd seen that explosion rip through solid iron. If Tyson had been down in the boiler room, there was no way he could have lived. He'd given his life for us, and all I could think about were the times I'd felt embarrassed by him and had denied that the two of us were related. Waves lapped at the boat. Annabeth showed me some things she'd salvaged from the wreckage. Hermes' thermos, now empty. A Ziploc bag full of ambrosia. A couple of sailors' shirts. And a bottle of Dr. Pepper. She'd fished me out of the water and found my knapsack. It had been bitten in half by Skyla's teeth. Most of my stuff had floated away, but I still had Hermes' bottle of multivitamins. And of course, I had Riptide. The ballpoint pen always appeared back in my pocket, no matter where I lost it. We sailed for hours. Now that we were in the Sea of Monsters, the water glittered a more brilliant green, like hydra acid. The wind smelled fresh and salty, but it carried a strange metallic scent too, as if a thunderstorm were coming, or something even more dangerous. I knew what direction we needed to go. I knew we were exactly 113 nautical miles west by northwest of our destination, but that didn't make me feel any less lost. No matter which way we turned, the sun seemed to shine straight into my eyes. We took turns sipping from the Dr. Pepper, shading ourselves with the sail as best we could, and we talked about my latest dream of Grover. By Annabeth's estimate, we had less than 24 hours to find Grover, assuming my dream was accurate, and assuming the Cyclops Polyphemus didn't change his mind and try to marry Grover earlier. Yeah, I said bitterly. You can never trust a Cyclops. Annabeth stared across the water. I'm sorry, Percy. I was wrong about Tyson, okay? I wish I could tell him that. I tried to stay mad at her, but it wasn't easy. We'd been through a lot together. She'd saved my life plenty of times. It was stupid of me to resent her. I looked down at our measly possessions, the empty wind thermos, a bottle of multivitamins. I thought about Luke's look of rage when I'd talked to him about his dad. Annabeth, what's Chiron's prophecy? She pursed her lips. Percy, I shouldn't. I know Chiron promised the gods he wouldn't tell me, but you didn't promise, did you? Knowledge isn't always good for you. Your mom is the wisdom goddess. I know, but every time heroes learn the future, they try to change it, and it never works. The gods are worried about something I'll do when I get older, I guessed. Something when I turn 16. Annabeth twisted her Yankees cap in her hand. Percy, I don't know the full prophecy, but it warns about a half-blood child of the big three, the next one who lives to the age 16. That's the real reason Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades swore off the pact after World War II. Not to have any more kids. The next child of the big three who reaches 16 will be a dangerous weapon. Why? Because the hero will decide the fate of Olympus. He or she will make a decision that either saves the age of the gods or destroys it. I let that sink in. I don't get seasick, but suddenly I felt ill. That's why Kronos didn't kill me last summer. She nodded. You could be very useful to him. If he can get you on his side, the gods will be in serious trouble. But if it's me in the prophecy, We'll only know that if you survive 3 more years. That can be a long time for a half-blood. When Chiron first learned about Thalia, he assumed she was the one in the prophecy. That's why he was so desperate to get her safely to camp. Then she went down fighting, got turned into a pine tree, and none of us knew what to think. Until you came along. On our port side, a spiky green dorsal fin, about 15 feet long, curled out of the water and disappeared. That this kid in the prophecy, he or she couldn't be like a cyclops? I asked. The big 3 have lots of monster children. Annabeth shook her head. The oracle said half-blood. That always means half human, half god. There's really nobody alive who it could be, except you. Then why do the gods even let me live? It would be safer to kill me. You're right. Thanks a lot. Percy, I don't know. I guess some of the gods would like to kill you, but they're probably afraid of offending Poseidon. Other gods, maybe they're still watching you, trying to decide what kind of hero you're going to be. You could be a weapon for their survival, after all. The real question is, what will you do in 3 years? What decision will you make? Did the prophecy give any hints? Annabeth hesitated. Maybe she would have told me more, but just then, a seagull swooped down out of nowhere and landed on our makeshift mast. Annabeth looked startled as the bird dropped a small cluster of leaves into her lap. Land, she said. There's land nearby. I sat up. Sure enough, there was a line of blue and brown in the distance. Another minute, I could make out an island with a small mountain in the center, a dazzling white collection of buildings, a beach dotted with palm trees, and a harbor filled with a strange assortment of boats. The current was pulling our rowboat toward what looked like a tropical paradise. Welcome, said the lady with the clipboard. She looked like a flight attendant. Blue business suit, perfect makeup, hair pulled back in a ponytail. She shook our hands as we stepped onto the dock. With the dazzling smile she gave us, you would have thought we'd just gotten off the Princess Andromeda rather than a banged-up rowboat. Then again, our rowboat wasn't the weirdest ship in port. Along with a bunch of pleasure yachts, there was a U.S. Navy submarine, several dugout canoes, and an old-fashioned 3-masted sailing ship. There was a helipad with a Channel 5 Fort Lauderdale helicopter on it, and a short runway with a Lear jet and a propeller plane that looked like a World War II fighter. Maybe there were replicas for tourists to look at or something? Is this your first time with us? The clipboard lady inquired. Annabeth and I exchanged looks. Annabeth said, First time at spa, the lady said as she wrote on her clipboard. Let's see. She looked us up and down critically. An herbal wrap to start for the young lady, and of course, a complete makeover for the young gentleman. A what? She was too busy jotting down notes to answer. Right, she said with a breezy smile. Well, I'm sure Cece will want to speak with you personally before the luau. Come, please. Now, here's the thing. Annabeth and I were used to traps, and usually those traps looked good at first. So I expected the clipboard lady to turn into a snake, or a demon, or something, any minute. But on the other hand, we'd been floating in a rowboat for most of the day. It was hot. Or I was hot, tired, and hungry, and when this lady mentioned a luau, my stomach sat up on its hind legs and begged like a dog. "I guess it couldn't hurt," Annabeth muttered. Of course it could, but we followed the lady anyway. I kept my hands in my pockets, where I'd stashed my only magic defenses, Hermes' multivitamins, and Riptide. But the further we wandered into the resort, the more I forgot about them. The place was amazing. There was white marble and blue water everywhere I looked. Terraces climbed up the side of the mountain, with swimming pools on every level, connected by water slides and waterfalls, and underwater tubes you could swim through. Water fountains sprayed water into the air, forming impossible shapes, like flying eagles and galloping horses. Tyson loved horses, and I knew he'd love those fountains. I almost turned around to see the expression on his face before I remembered. Tyson was gone. "You okay?" Annabeth asked me. "You look pale." "I'm okay," I lied. "Just, let's keep walking." We passed all kinds of tame animals. A sea turtle napped in a stack of beach towels. A leopard stretched out asleep on the diving board. The resort guests, only young women as far as I could see, lounged in deck chairs, drinking fruit smoothies or reading magazines while herbal gunk dried on their faces, and manicurists in white uniforms did their nails. As we headed up a staircase toward what looked like the main building, I heard a woman singing. Her voice drifted through the air like a lullaby. Her words were in some language other than ancient Greek, but just as old. Minoan, maybe, or something like that. I could understand what she sang about. Moonlight in the olive groves, the colors of the sunrise, and magic. Something about magic. Her voice seemed to lift me off the steps and carry me towards her. We came into a big room where the whole front wall was windows. The back wall was covered in mirrors, so the room seemed to go on forever. There was a bunch of expensive-looking white furniture, and on a table in one corner was a large wire pet cage. The cage seemed out of place, but I didn't think about it too much, because just then I saw the lady who'd been singing. And whoa. She sat at a loom the size of a big screen TV, her hands weaving colored threads back and forth with amazing skill. The tapestry shimmered like it was three-dimensional. A waterfall scene so real I could see the water moving and clouds drifting across a fabric sky. Annabeth caught her breath. "It's beautiful." The woman turned. She was even prettier than her fabric. Her long hair was braided with threads of gold. She had piercing green eyes. She wore a silky black dress with shapes that seemed to move in the fabric. Animal shadows, black upon black, like deer running through a forest at night. "You appreciate weaving, my dear?" the woman asked. "Oh, yes, ma'am," Annabeth said. "My mother is—" She stopped herself. You couldn't just go around announcing that your mom was Athena, the goddess who invented the loom. Most people would lock you in a rubber room. Our hostess just smiled. "You have good taste, my dear. I'm so glad that you've come. My name is Cece." The animals in the corner cage started squealing. They must have been guinea pigs from the sound of them. We introduced ourselves to Cece. She looked me over with a twinge of disapproval. as if I'd failed some kind of test. Immediately, I felt bad. For some reason, I really wanted to please this lady. "Oh dear," she sighed. "You do need my help." "Ma'am?" I asked. Cece called to the lady in the business suit. "Hyla, take Annabeth on a tour, will you? Show her what we have available. The clothing will need to change, and the hair, my goodness. We will do a full image consultation after I've spoken with this young gentleman." "But," Annabeth's voice sounded hurt, "what's wrong with my hair?" Cece smiled benevolently. "My dear, you are lovely, really. But you're not showing off yourself or your talents at all. So much wasted potential." "Wasted?" "Well, surely you're not happy the way you are. My goodness, there's not a single person who is. But don't worry. We can improve anyone here at the spa. Hyla will show you what I mean. You, my dear, need to unlock your true self." Annabeth's eyes glowed with longing. I'd never seen her so much at a loss for words. "But what about Percy?" "Oh, definitely," Cece said, giving me a sad look. "Percy requires my personal attention. He needs much more work than you." Normally, if somebody had told me that, I would have gotten angry. But when Cece said it, I felt sad. I'd disappointed her. I had to figure out how to do better. The guinea pigs squealed like they were hungry. "Well," Annabeth said, "I suppose—" "Right this way, dear," Hyla said, and Annabeth allowed herself to be led into the waterfall-laced gardens of the spa. Cece took my arm and guided me toward the mirrored wall. "You see, Percy, to unlock your potential, you'll need serious help. The first step is admitting that you're not happy the way you are." I fidgeted in the front of the mirror. I hated thinking about my appearance, like the first zit that had cropped up on my nose at the beginning of the school year, or the fact that my 2 front teeth weren't perfectly even, or that my hair never stayed down straight. Cece's voice brought all of these things to mind, as if she were passing me under a microscope. And my clothes were not cool. I knew that. Who cares? Part of me thought. But standing in front of Cece's mirror, it was hard to see anything good in myself. There, Cece consoled. "How about we try this?" She snapped her fingers, and a sky-blue curtain rolled down over the mirror. It shimmered like the fabric on her loom. "What do you see?" Cece asked. I looked at the blue cloth, not sure what she meant. "I don't..." Then it changed colors. I saw myself. A reflection, but not a reflection. Shimmering there on the cloth was a cooler version of Percy Jackson. With just the right clothes, a confident smile on my face. My teeth were straight, no zits, a perfect tan, more athletic, maybe a couple inches taller. It was me, without the faults. "Whoa," I managed. "Do you want that?" Cece asked. "Or shall I try a different—" "No," I said. That's amazing. Can you really? I can give you a full makeover," Cece promised. "What's the catch?" I said. "I have to, eat a special diet?" "Oh, it's quite easy," Cece said. "Plenty of fresh fruit, a mild exercise program, and of course, this." She stepped over to her wet bar and filled a glass with water. Then she ripped open a drink mix packet and poured in some red powder. The mixture began to glow. When it faded, the drink looked just like a strawberry milkshake. "One of these, substituted for a regular meal," Cece said. "I guarantee you'll see results immediately." "How is this possible?" She laughed. Why question it? I mean, don't you want the perfect you right away? Something nagged at the back of my mind. Why are there no guys at this spa? "Oh, but there are," Cece assured me. "You'll meet them quite soon. Just try the mixture. You'll see." I looked at the blue tapestry, at the reflection of me, but not me. "Now, Percy," Cece chided, "the hardest part of the makeover process is giving up control. You have to decide. Do you want to trust your judgment about what you should be, or my judgment?" My throat felt dry. I heard myself say, "Yours." Cece smiled and handed me the glass. I lifted it to my lips. It tasted just like it looked, like a strawberry milkshake. Almost immediately, a warm feeling spread through my gut. Pleasant at first, then painfully hot, searing as if the mixture was coming to a boil inside of me. I doubled over and dropped the cup. What's happening?" "Don't worry, Percy," Cece said. "The pain will pass. Look, as I promised, immediate results." Something was horribly wrong. The curtain dropped away, and in the mirror, I saw my hands shriveling, curling, growing long, delicate claws. First sprouted around my face, under my shirt, in every uncomfortable place you can imagine. My teeth felt so heavy in my mouth. My clothes were getting too big, or Cece was getting too small. No, I was shrinking. In one awful flash, I sank into a cavern of dark cloth. I was buried in my own shirt. I tried to run, but hands grabbed me, hands as big as I was. I tried to scream for help, but all that came out of my mouth was, "Ree, ree, ree, ree. The giant hand squeezed me around the middle, lifting me into the air. I struggled and kicked with legs and arms that seemed much too stubby, and then I was staring horrified into the enormous face of Cece. "Perfect!" Her voice boomed. I squirmed in alarm, but she only tightened her grip around my furry belly. "See, Percy? You've unlocked your true self." She held me up to the mirror, and what I saw made me scream in terror. "Ree, ree, ree, ree." There was Cece, beautiful and smiling, holding a fluffy, buck-toothed creature with tiny claws and white and orange fur. When I twisted, so did the furry critter in the mirror. I was a guinea pig, Cece said. "Lovely, aren't you? Men are pigs, Percy Jackson. I used to turn them into real pigs, but they were so smelly and large and difficult to keep. Not much different than they were before, really. Guinea pigs are much more convenient. Now come and meet the other men." "Ree!" I protested, trying to scratch her, but Cece squeezed me so tight I almost blacked out. "None of that, little one. She scolded, "or I'll feed you to the owls. Go into the cage like a good little pet. Tomorrow, if you behave, you'll be on your way. There's always a classroom in need of a new guinea pig." My mind was racing as fast as my little tiny heart. I needed to get back to my clothes, which were lying in a heap on the floor. If I could do that, I could get Riptide out of my pocket and what? I couldn't uncap the pen. Even if I did, I couldn't hold the sword. I squirmed helplessly as Cece brought me over to the guinea pig cage and opened the wire door. "Meet my discipline problems, Percy," she warned. "They'll never make good classroom pets, but they might teach you some manners. Most of them have been in this cage for 300 years. If you don't want to stay with them permanently, I suggest you—" Annabeth's voice called. "Miss Cece?" Cece cursed in ancient Greek. She plopped me into the cage and closed the door. I squealed and clawed at the bars, but it was no good. I watched as Cece hurriedly kicked my clothes under the loom just as Annabeth came in. I almost didn't recognize her. She was wearing a sleeveless silk dress like Cece's, only white. Her blonde hair was newly washed and combed and braided with gold. Worst of all, she was wearing makeup, which I never thought Annabeth would be caught dead in. I mean, she looked good. Really good. I probably would have been tongue-tied if I could have said anything except "ree, ree." But there was also something totally wrong about it. It just wasn't Annabeth. I looked around the room and frowned. Or she looked around the room and frowned. "Where's Percy?" I squealed up a storm, but she didn't seem to hear me. Cece smiled. "Having one of our treatments, my dear. Not to worry. You look wonderful. What did you think of your tour?" Annabeth's eyes brightened. "Your library is amazing." "Yes, indeed," Cece said. "The best knowledge of the past 3 millennia. Anything you want to study. Anything you want to be, my dear." "An architect?" "Pah!" Cece said. "You, my dear, have the makings of a sorceress, like me." Annabeth took a step back. "A sorceress?" "Yes, my dear." Cece held up her hand. A flame appeared in her palm and danced across her fingertips. "My mother is Hecate, the goddess of magic. I know a daughter of Athena when I see one. We're not so different, you and I. We both seek knowledge. We both admire greatness. Neither of us needs to stand in the shadow of men." I don't understand." Again, I squealed my best, trying to get Annabeth's attention, but she either couldn't hear me or didn't think the noises were important. Meanwhile, the other guinea pigs were emerging from their hutch to check me out. I didn't think it was possible for guinea pigs to look mean, but these did. There were half a dozen, with dirty fur and cracked teeth and beady red eyes. They were covered with shavings and smelled like they really had been in here for 300 years, without getting their cage cleaned. "Stay with me," Cece was telling Annabeth. "Study with me. You can join our staff, become a sorceress. Learn to bend others to your will. You will become immortal." "But you're too intelligent, my dear," Cece said. "You know better than to trust that silly camp for heroes. How many great female half-blood heroes can you name? Atlanta? Amelia Earhart? Bah! Men get all the glory." Cece closed her fist and extinguished the magic flame. The only way to power for women is sorcery. Medea, Calypso, now they were powerful women. And me, of course, the greatest of all. You, Cece, Cirque, or Circe. Yes, my dear. Annabeth backed up, and Circe laughed. You need not worry. I mean you no harm. What have you done to Percy? Only helped him realize his true form. Annabeth scanned the room. Finally, she saw the cage. And me scratching at the bars. All the other guinea pigs crowding around me. Her eyes went wide. Forget him, Circe said. Join me and learn the ways of sorcery. But your friend will be well cared for. He'll be shipped to a wonderful new home on the mainland. The kindergartners will adore him. Meanwhile, you will be wise and powerful. You will have all you ever wanted. Annabeth was still staring at me, but she had a dreamy expression on her face. She looked the same way I had when Circe enchanted me into drinking the guinea pig milkshake. I squealed and scratched, trying to warn her to snap out of it, but I was absolutely powerless. Let me think about it, Annabeth murmured. Just give me a minute alone to say goodbye. Of course, my dear, Circe cooed. 1 minute. Oh, and so you have absolute privacy. She waved her hand, and the iron bars slammed down over the windows. She swept out of the room, and I heard the locks on the door click shut behind her. The dreamy look melted off of Annabeth's face. She rushed over to my cage. All right, which one is you? I squealed, but so did all the other guinea pigs. Annabeth looked desperate. She scanned the room and spotted the cuff of my jeans sticking out from under the loom. Yes. She rushed over and rummaged through my pockets, but instead of bringing out Riptide, she found the bottle of Hermes multivitamins and started struggling with the cap. I wanted to scream at her that this wasn't the time for taking supplements. She had to draw the sword. She popped a lemon chewable into her mouth as the door flew open and Circe came back in, flanked by 2 of her business-suited attendants. Well, Circe sighed. How fast a minute passes. What is your answer, my dear? This, Annabeth said. She drew her bronze knife. The sorceress stepped back, but her surprise quickly passed. She sneered. Really, little girl? A knife against my magic? Is that wise? Circe looked back at her attendants, who smiled. They raised their hands as if preparing to cast a spell. Run, I wanted to tell Annabeth, but all I could make out were rodent noises. The other guinea pigs squealed in terror and scuttled around the cage. I had the urge to panic and hide too, but I had to think of something. I couldn't stand to lose Annabeth the way I'd lost Tyson. What will Annabeth's makeover be? Circe mused. Something small and ill-tempered. I know. A shrew. Blue fire coiled from her fingers, curling like serpents around Annabeth. I watched horror-struck, but nothing happened. Annabeth was still Annabeth, only angrier. She leapt forward and stuck the point of her knife against Circe's neck. How about turning me into a panther instead? One that has claws at your throat. How? Circe yelped. Annabeth held up my bottle of vitamins for the sorceress to see. Circe howled in frustration. Curse Hermes and his multivitamins. Those are such a fad. They do nothing for you. Turn Percy back to a human or else, Annabeth said. I can't. Then you asked for it. Cersei's attendants stepped forward, but their mistress said, Get back. She's immune to magic until the cursed vitamin wears off. Annabeth dragged Cersei over to the guinea pig cage, knocked the top, and poured the rest of the vitamins inside. No! Cersei screamed. I was the first to get a vitamin, but all the other guinea pigs scuttled out too, and checked out this new food. The first nibble, and I felt all fiery inside. I gnawed at the vitamin until it stopped looking so huge, and the cage got smaller, and then suddenly, bang! The cage exploded. I was sitting on the floor, a human again. Somehow back in my regular clothes, thank the gods. With 6 other guys who all looked disoriented, blinking and shaking wood shavings out of their hair. No! Cersei screamed. You don't understand. Those are the worst. One of the men stood up, a huge guy with a long tangled pitch-black beard and teeth the same color. He wore mismatched clothes of wool and leather, knee-length boots, and a floppy felt hat. The other men were dressed more simply, in breeches and stained white shirts. All of them were barefoot.
Yarg!
Bellowed the big man.
What's this witch done to me?
No! Cersei moaned. Annabeth gasped. I recognize you. Edward Teach, son of Ares.
Aye, lass, the big man growled, though most call me Blackbeard. And there's the sorceress what captured us, lads. Run her through, and then I mean to find me a big bowl of celery. Yarg!
Cersei screamed. She and her attendants ran from the room, chased by pirates. Annabeth sheathed her knife and glared at me. Thanks, I faltered. I'm really sorry. Before I could figure out how to apologize for being such an idiot, she tackled me with a hug and pulled away just as quickly. I'm glad you're not a guinea pig. Me too. I hoped my face wasn't as red as it felt. She undid the golden braids in her hair. Come on, seaweed brain, she said. We have to get away while Cersei's distracted. We ran down the hillside through the terraces, past screaming spa workers and pirates ransacking the resort. Blackbeard's men broke the tiki torches for the luau, threw herbal wraps into the swimming pool, and kicked over tables of sauna towels. I almost felt bad letting the unruly pirates out, but I guess they deserved something more entertaining than the exercise wheel after being cooped up in a cage for 3 centuries. Which ship? Annabeth said as we reached the docks. I looked around desperately. We couldn't very well take our rowboat. We had to get off the island fast. But what else could we use? A sub? A fighter jet? I couldn't pilot any of those things. And then I saw it. There, I said. Annabeth blinked. But I can make it work. How? I couldn't explain. I just somehow knew an old sailing vessel was the best bet for me. I grabbed Annabeth's hand and pulled her toward the 3-mast ship. Painted on its prow was the name that I would only decipher later. Queen Anne's Revenge.
Yarg!
Blackbeard yelled somewhere behind us.
Those scallywags are aboard in me vessel. Get 'em, lads.
We'll never make it in time, Annabeth yelled as we climbed aboard. I looked around at the hopeless maze of sail and ropes. The ship was in great condition for a 300-year-old vessel, but it would still take a crew of 50 several hours to get underway. We didn't have several hours. I could see the pirates running down the stairs, waving tiki torches and sticks of celery. I closed my eyes and concentrated on the waves lapping against the hull. The ocean currents, the winds all around me. Suddenly, the right word appeared in my mind. "Mizzenmast!" I yelled. Annabeth looked at me like I was nuts, but in the next second, the air was filled with whistling sounds of ropes being snapped taut, canvases unfurling, and wooden pulleys creaking. Annabeth ducked as a cable flew over her head and wrapped itself around the bowsprit. "Percy, how?" I didn't have an answer, but I could feel the ship responding to me, as if it were a part of my body. I willed the sails to rise as easily as if I were flexing my arm. I willed the rudder to turn. Queen Anne's Revenge lurched away from the dock. By the time the pirates arrived at the water's edge, we were already underway, sailing into the Sea of Monsters. Hoo! Yarg! There be the sorceress, what done turned me into a guinea pig. I freaking forgot Blackbeard was in this book. Dude. How dare she? Dude, I know, right? How you gonna just turn Blackbeard into a guinea pig? The heck? The heck? That chapter was awesome. That chapter was awesome. Yeah. Freaking heck. Dude, I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoyed that one. Cersei was a great character. And again, I forgot that freaking Blackbeard was in this. Was in this chapter. I forgot he was even in the book. However, I will say, sorry, not to bring the tone down, but Tyson is still gone. Is he gone for good? Did he really sacrifice himself? I don't know. I have a feeling that, like, Poseidon would have saved him, you know? Right? Because Tyson is important. If Poseidon went ahead and claimed Tyson as his child, you know? If he went through the trouble of doing that, would he really let him go down in a blaze of glory like that? I don't think so. But, I don't know. That's at least, those are my thoughts on it. I feel as though Poseidon is gonna have saved him somehow. Also, they got the Queen Anne's Revenge now? Let's go. And, dude, the ship is just doing what Percy wants it to. I don't know. That's pretty sick. Nice. Well, hey. This was a darn good stream. I enjoyed it lots. The chapter was really cool. We're ahead of schedule even, which is awesome. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Did you have a favorite chapter of the three? Yeah, I guess those Flintstone gummies are kind of like I don't know. They're just supplements. They're not like drugs. But they apparently make you magic immune. I also like how, they're not really using you like the powdered donuts, so you're gonna go with the first one. That's fair. and it's the chapter that had Tyson featured most in it, so that's a hard one to beat. I like how the two gifts that Hermes gave them, they wound up having to use them in full. You know, they didn't even try to like they don't even try to like spare them or anything, or like try to use them sparingly rather. I think that was funny and cool. Cuz it really makes sense, you know? They're on a journey that they don't know if they're going to return from. So if a moment calls for them to use like something that they can in order to have the upper hand and get what needs to be done, then why not use it? It's good stuff. All right, cool beans. Anyone else out there? You guys you guys have a favorite chapter out of the bunch? Yeah, the powdered donuts. What the heck? That's a solid moment. You know what didn't have powdered donuts featured in it? The Sea of Monsters movie. That's where they first went wrong, dude. At least I don't think it did. I'm pretty darn sure it didn't. I guess don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it didn't. Well, right on. Seems like I don't know, I think heck yeah. I think and again, yeah, we are moseying through this book. Yeah, we're on chapter 13 out of 20. So if we do 3 per day, then we did 3 today on Monday. So we'll get through 9 this week, I think. Yeah, tomorrow we'll get through another 3. Or we'll do another 3. Then Wednesday we'll do another 3. So 12. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, 13, 14, 15 tomorrow. 16, 17, 18. So we'll finish it next week. So we won't be finishing it this week, but next Monday will be the finale, I believe, for this here book. Which is pretty good, pretty cool. And that's even with like all the other event stuff. It's nice. So we'll still be moseying through this series. Despite, the things that we have intervening in it. Which, by the way, wanted to remind you guys that on Thursdays, we're going to now be doing the D&D campaign. It'll be on and off, like, week by week. Not on and off, but, like, it'll be switching week by week. On Thursdays, we're doing the D&D campaign and the Lancer campaign, alternating. So that'll be on Thursdays. I'm excited for that. And then we do Fantasy Fridays, Simp Saturdays, and Sci-Fi Sundays. There's a good schedule. I can dig it. All right. I hope to see you guys tomorrow to see where they go on the Queen Anne's Revenge. See if they actually, oh yeah, say your merry prayers Saturday. That might be the best title of the bunch. I'm also trying to figure out like a name for the D&D event, for those nights. Not entirely sure what to call it yet. I'm thinking like something along the lines of like something to do with merry men, like Robin Hood. But I'm not entirely sure yet. Or something like with merry mercenaries. Like the merry marauders. I don't know. I'm gonna try to figure out a title for that day. So if you guys have any suggestions, please toss it in the Discord. Yeah. All right, guys. I think we're gonna call it a night, and yeah. Thanks so much for coming. This was a splendid evening, and I hope you guys enjoyed hearing me read. And as always, like, thank you for being here and you know, watching my practice for, you know, voice acting and enjoying a little mythical adventure with me. These nights are cool, and I appreciate every one of you. All right. Right on. Let me bring up this. Bring up the reprise here. Outro theme. Good night, everybody. I love you guys so much. Almost as much as Nick and Coleman. But yeah, I hope everybody has a very merry rest of their night. Remember to love yourselves. You know, make choices that you feel will be to your benefit. And yeah, keep on swaying, my wildflowers. Love you bunches. And have a good night.
Thank you.